been a grand time, hasn't it, for MPIRG? 40 years, it's just been a grand time. The things that have occurred, the things we've done, you've done, others have done. It's a marvelous testament to our state. The boundary waters exist today because, in large part, because of MPIRG. We have a nuclear moratorium, in large part because of MPIRG. We haven't built a coal plant in this state since 1983, I think, when they finished Circle 3. Yeah. Because of MPIRG. We fought for South African disinvestment when that country was ruled by that cruel and terrible system of apartheid. We tried to improve student testing. We fought for gay rights. We fought for a lot of pretty good things. And the great thing with MPIRG has always been that we have these sort of twofold purposes, right? One purpose is to try to influence public policy, to make public policy better in our state, to make it a better state for the citizens and for the people who come here for future generations. That's a big thing to do. But our second thing has always been to expose students to the idea and to the whole concept of being able to change the world, to make it a better place, and to improve it. It just, sometimes in increments, keeping the bookstore open later hours, providing for campus security, or maybe sometimes even getting rid of a professor. Or some of the MPIRG students did originally kept Paul Wellstone teaching at Carleton. Who knows what would happen in our history if we hadn't been for that. So we've done well. MPIRG has done pretty well. But a big part of that has been like this experiencing the joy, that real joy. There is a joy of citizenship is kind of a solemn thing. It's a serious thing. But with activism, there's a thing about you get outside yourself, right? You've got to bigger yourself and you become part of others. And that's one of the real joys of it. And that's what's fun. And don't tell me that any of you would be a member of this organization today, the student members, or any of you that work here at one time would have been ever employed here or done this work if it hadn't been, or it isn't, an awful lot of fun. And citizenship is fun. Activism is fun. It's a good thing to do. One of the pernicious things is developing governance over the last 20 or 30 years is this idea of customers. Is that government has customers that you give, that you have a government agency. I'm a head of a government agency, so I'm trying to banish this word, but it's tough. But that you have customers, and that you're in transactional relationships between government. You have the government and its citizens, the transaction relationship. You give something to them, they give something back to you. You provide, I don't know, an education, and they pay you money. You provide whatever it is, some service. But the citizen's role is not as a citizen, but it's as a customer. And that's what you do. It's kind of like the same relationship you have with Walmart. And I don't mean to pick on Walmart, but you're a customer, there's a transactional relationship. And so it's sort of a government market relationship we have. But that wasn't, I don't think, Larry, when you passed down those petitions years ago in starting MPIRG, and I don't think that was certainly Ralph Nader's idea or Alan Sake's idea, or the people here today, that's your idea of what government should be, that we're customers. Rather, it is that government, you're owners, and we're citizens. This is our government. You're not part of a Walmart. No, you go in to buy a shirt or whatever you buy. And it's government, it's us. We're the owners of it. And so we're activists. And so we can influence, just like a shareholder can influence the fate of Walmart. As a shareholder in our government, the idea that you can influence government in this direction. And that's the idea, the driving force should be, the driving force, the driving idea, the driving proposition behind MPIRG. That is that we are owners, and that we can make a difference in it. You can make a difference. That every student, every college can make a real difference in the direction of our state, or the direction of your community, the direction of your college. And if MPIRG keeps doing that, it's going to be just fine. Thank you very much.
A man once was asked why he could see farther than others. And he replied, because I stand on the shoulders of giants. And in 1978, that's what we felt like with Herman, Dayton, Allen. Was this heritage and this feeling of standing on the shoulders of giants. There's something about being involved with organizations that have historic legacy, but that the legacy isn't of the past. It's ongoing and it's permanent. MPIRG is something very special. And I will just share a little of my own experience. In the late 60s, I lived in the Haight-Ashbury. I rioted in Berkeley. In 1972, I was held responsible for bringing 800 armed guards on the campus for disrupting the University of Minnesota. At that time, I held MPIRG in contempt. It was a bunch of wusses who wanted to reform. Didn't they know enough that we needed a revolution? Well, let me tell you, SDS lasted 10 years and died. MPIRG lasted 4 years and is still alive and well. Long-term wisdom that many of us that were 60s radicals did not fully appreciate at the time. I later became a sociologist, and there's a sociologist that wrote something, gave a lecture in 1990 that deeply influenced me and helped me understand some of the experiences and the transformation that I had while I was at MPIRG. It's called Politics as a Vocation. And in that, Weber says politics is involved with ethics. But he posed two very different ethical systems. One was the ethics of ultimate ends. It says that we have to bring heaven to earth, that we have to create the perfect world, and that we can use any means necessary to accomplish that. And whatever consequences there are, too bad. And that was what drove many of us. And we were contemptible of alternative views. There's the other ethic that he talked about, was the ethic of responsibility. It was a model that believed that your means needed to be congruent with your ends. It was a politic that said, I will do my best, but I am not responsible for the outcome. You win some, you lose some. You come back again. And in a time like this, that ethic of responsibility, in times that look very bleak for those of us who believe in progressive causes, it's a time that some people arch their back and start accepting the ethic of ultimate ends. We must do something drastic. We must do something radical. The ethic of responsibility says, let's get down to the work and figure out a better mousetrap to win. And that's what MPIRG's always been known for. It didn't let ideology get in the way. It let a value system lead it to work across aisles, across ideologies, to get something done. So I really expect MPIRG in the coming years, in this very tough time of a split world, that this is the kind of organization that can provide the very leadership and civility and bringing people of opposites together to continue to pass progressive legislation. I will be very brief with you, but there is a phrase at the end of Weber's piece that just strikes me. He said, politics is a strong and slow pouring of hard words. It takes both passion and perspective. Certainly all historical experience confirms the truth that man would not have attained the possible unless time and again he had reached out for the impossible. But to do that, a man must be a leader, and not only a leader, but a hero as well. A very sober sense of the word. And even those who are neither leaders nor heroes must arm themselves with that steadfastness of heart that can brave even the crumbling of all hopes. I'd like to close with, in a nutshell, what I actually learned during those MPIRG years. It comes from something that most of you would know from self-help groups. It is a prayer, but it is a prayer that was written by the foremost theologian in the 20th century, also a political philosopher and activist, Reinhold Niebuhr. God, give us grace to accept with serenity the things that cannot be changed, the courage to change the things which should be changed, and the wisdom to distinguish the one from the other. And if there is one task of working with students that I think this organization holds, and I certainly hold in my work now, is trying to help us understand and gain the wisdom to know the difference, and to know when to fight, and when to hold and when to fold. But to realize you can't take on all causes at all times. But when you can move to change things, you do so. But you do so in a way that follows the ethic of responsibility, that makes sure your means are congruent with your end. And that lesson I take away from those 4 years is probably one of the most valuable lessons I have had in my public career. So, give them hell, gang. We need you this time at that session. Thank you.